Hello, and welcome to the latest webinar in our series for the International Education and Schools Fair. And I'm delighted to introduce latest on cross-cultural positive transition care. And my guests today are Valérie Besanceney, and she is Executive Director of SPAN, Claudine Hakim, Head of Transitions Care and Student Support, International School of London, and SPAN Chair of SPAN Board of Trustees. And also with us is Zack, Ekert, Head of Multilingualism at International School of London. So welcome to you all today.
Hello.
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 Great. So we're here to talk about updates on cross-cultural positive transition care from SPAN. So that, I think, in the time since we've spoken to some of you, which was back in 2020, there has been a huge amount of wonderful development work you've done. And I'd like to feel that we've helped educate some of our audience about positive transitions care. So I think the best thing to do is to start with you, Valérie, to give us a bit of a background about what SPAN is and why it's relevant to our audience of parents and children, and, well, not the children, but the parents of relocating children, their employers and the relocation professionals, not to mention the wealth of people with education backgrounds. So please do outline to those people what SPAN is all about and what's been happening since 2020.
Thank you so much, Fiona. Thank you for inviting us today. So yes, a lot has happened since 2020, but SPAN, so it's Safe Passage Across Networks, and it was founded in 2017, but Doug Oda and at the time the steering committee. And in 2019, it became an official not-for-profit organization based out of the Netherlands. And we focus on ensuring that we can provide resources on positive transitions care for educators, for organizations, also for parents, on really how to best support students, families, and staff in their transitions within schools, between schools, and beyond schools. So when we focused on our conversation last in 2020 about why it is important, since then also, of course, the pandemic has really highlighted why transitions matter, and well-being is being prioritized now much more within schools and organizations. So now that we really understand the why, we as an organization are looking at the how, and really to apply the research that's there and then translate it into practical resources on how to support students and, again, families and staff as they're arriving in the school, as they're staying in the school, as they're leaving in the school. And so we're really looking at moving it from problems to solutions, and to really flip the script on how to manage the challenges to ensure that students, families, and staff can reap the benefits of a globally mobile life. And at a recent think tank at the International School of London, we addressed the solutions really towards embedding positive transitions care at schools in their policies and procedures, and what that looks like translated into practical being applied practically. So Claudine, maybe you can speak to that a little bit more.
Yes, and it was a wonderful occasion, full of energy and great insight. So yes, let's hear all about it, Claudine.
Thank you. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Valérie, as well for the intro. The think tank was indeed a very, very special occasion for us. It was a culmination of various thought leadership events that we hosted at ISL as part of our 50th anniversary. And what we wanted to end the 50th anniversary with was a topic that is dear to us at ISL, which is having a positive transitions care program and to engage with partners around the world on a topic that matters to us all. And for me in particular, wearing the two hats of being the leader of our transitions care program, but also being on the board of trustees at SPAN, it was a special moment for us to bring together our partners, our SPAN partners, to be in the same room, to listen to latest research, to have our founder, Doug Ota, present his findings from his Spaces study, which will be out to the public at the end of January, where we'll all have a chance to have a better look at all his findings, and really to highlight why, not only the why, because we've been saying for a while now why positive transitions care is important, but really to highlight how we as organizations can do a better job or can improve the services that we're offering for the communities that we serve. And then, you know, after Doug gave his keynote, we had ISCA, SPAN, and CIS talk to us about policies and accreditation. Valerie, you were part of that group. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about what you focused on?
And could you please explain what these organizations are? That would be helpful too.
Absolutely. So the Council of International Schools, CIS, is an organization that accredits international schools and has accreditation standards to which the schools have to adhere in order to receive their accreditation or to become reaccredited. And since Doug started his work on transitions care in the early days and started communicating with CIS, we're really happy to see that they've actually now integrated it into their standards. So it's standards E5 and E6 that they have, where they're really addressing transitions care within the school, but also the transitions care from secondary school to higher education. So we had Katie Riggs at the ISL think tank, who was able to really speak to those standards and what that looks like and for schools and why they are so important at the moment as well, where they're looking at a new transitions model. And then the ISCA, the International School Counselor Association, has developed student standards where they're also including standards on transitions care specifically, and where they're looking also at what that looks like in practical ideas on how teachers, how counselors can really ensure that they're applying positive transitions care as they are working with their students.
And this is the older pupils who may be going on to university or jobs, or for the older level children.
It's for all, actually. Yes.
Oh,
yeah. It's for from primary to secondary too, but also with the focus on the transitions piece between the students who are going to university now as well.
No, well, that's looking on clarify that, because I think quite a lot of people are still, like myself, are stuck in thinking that the counsellors are all to do with when you're about to leave school. So that's great.
Yes, no, there's also, of course, you know, the primary, and it's quite interesting in the field of counselling as well, because there is a difference between the social emotional counsellors and the university guidance counsellors, but where more and more university guidance counselors are also having to bring in that social emotional piece to really support their students in everything from of course, you know, all the specific details pertaining to whatever pathway they choose, whether it's university or some other higher form of education, but also looking at how they can best support them in the practical pieces, but also the skills that they need to go through this transition as well, which is, again, bringing back the idea of positive transitions care, also really offering students a skill set that they can use for life, not just in one transition.
Excellent. So probably a good point to hand back to Claudine.
Yes, so after we had the presenters, we then had ISL do a showcase of the program we have at ISL, and there was a panel there where we had representatives from the ISL team highlighting the various aspects, such as, you know, we had the parent voice, we had a student voice, we had a staff voice. We looked at how the whole process of embedding a transitions care program begins from the moment of contact with the school, at the admissions level, all the way through to becoming an alum. And then we had various stakeholders like our HR representative there, the school counselor. We had a current student who's a stayer, because a lot of times when we're looking at transitions care, we're thinking of people being mobile, moving from one place to the other, whether it's from primary to secondary or secondary to university or within the school. What we're sometimes forgetting is the students who are the stayers, or the members of staff who are the stayers, are the people who are holding the community. And you don't have to actually be transient to experience transitions care, and what support we're putting in place for what we term as the stayers. And then we were looking as well at how our head of multilingualism, who's with us on this call right now, what role he plays in engaging with our cross-cultural community. Zack, would you expand, please, a bit on your role specifically, because that is quite key to our environment and to the context of our school?
Yes, absolutely, Claudine. And I have to say, I really enjoyed that showcase. It's quite unusual to have the privilege to see all of the different actors involved in that process in one room. So we also mentioned how we're working from problems to solutions. I'm very much putting a solution into practice in our daily operations at the school. So how does it look in practice? We have our students pass through the admissions documentation and through that stage. And after we know that their place is secure, the first person that they speak to is me in that process. And why would the head of multilingualism need to be the first contact point? It's because actually I'm there to work out the family's story, and it's not the student's story or the parent's story, it's the collective family story. Why do they need to make the change? Whose decision was it? How do the children feel about moving away from their hometown and from their friends? And what are they looking forward to? What languages do they speak? That's actually the next question I go into. But first I need to know the family's needs and wishes and aspirations moving forward. So whether they are an English native speaking family based in London looking to move abroad, or maybe they are an American family moving into the UK because of a mission of one of the parents, or there might be a family from any other country around the world. And we have to work out how to match that family's needs to our provision. How do we provide for them? So based on that, the school is world famous for the mother tongue courses that we offer. We currently offer 24 languages as part of our offer. That is for native speakers or near native speakers of the languages, where they can maintain their level of fluency through exposure to language and literature, similar to the curricula that they would have exposure to at home. We also offer other foreign languages that they can learn within our language acquisition program. And of course, we have an English language learning program that we offer them. So our students have 3 linguistic offers, but that's not all we do. I then liaise with our transitions teams and other teams where needs might come out of that linguistic sphere. So we're looking at the whole package there. We're looking at the whole circle. The thing that I noticed as well is actually we focus a lot on our students, but our parents need support. And a lot of that support is already provided through the transitions team with regards to the cultural changes and logistical support. And what I've worked on this term since joining ISL actually is completing that circle of provision, where we have students receiving mother tongue provision, but also in providing support for parents and their third culture children who have suddenly become TCKs, and looking at how they can help support their child maintain 2 or 3 or 4 languages at home. So that really, in a nutshell, is what we are doing at ISL.
Yes, well, thank you. And I think it's really powerful to know that it does embrace the whole family, but also how early on you're in the relationship. And I'm right, aren't I, in thinking that it's throughout their time at the school until the children leave and the parents say goodbye.
Absolutely. And another thing that we have noticed with time, because we've been offering this program for over 10 years now, the more we develop the program, the more we realize there's more to do. And we've come to the realization that sometimes even that transition from a family that's just down the road, they may need the same level of care as a family that's coming to us all the way from perhaps Kuala Lumpur to the UK. That change, that transition is key in ensuring that they're onboarded well, but it's not only that onboarding stage, it's that throughout their journey with us. And when they become alum, bringing them back into the family. Because one thing, we didn't mention at the beginning is that part of the research, the latest research that's been out there is, and this is something in Doug's work that's going to come out, is that, students are forming attachments with their schools, and the schools have a responsibility to look after the well-being of its community. And, as Valerie mentioned earlier, since the pandemic, there has also been an increase in need for looking after the well-being of our students in particular, but actually staff and parents as well. And so it's become part of the dialogue, it's become part of the strategic plans of most schools. And then the big question is, so how do you do that? Yes, we say we want to look after the well-being, the how. And what, Zack was describing was very much one of the ways of how we ensure that we're, being there of support to our community.
And can you mention just a bit about the mental health of children, and parents as well, if they are able to use their native language or several languages? How does that help their education and their learning process?
Okay, and I think that's a question for me there, and it's a very, very profound question. And this actually happens, and this happens everywhere around the world, where we have students coming into a different country and suddenly they are unable to express themselves, and that is actually quite a large issue that I think is going unrecognized. Where suddenly you enter a new country and you cannot be who you are, you cannot say what you want to say, you cannot think what you want to think. We are doing everything to mitigate that feeling of isolation. And I know, having spoken to my own teams and to the management at ISL, that actually this is something that is applicable to staff, it's applicable to parents, and it's applicable to students. And all three elements work together. The three are not separable. So what we do at ISL is we try to provide that support system, which is linguistic, but then that support system also goes out into many other teams. I think there's 5 or 6 teams actually involved in providing that mental health support, whether it is directly or less directly. The whole thing connects into one.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. So who's going to pick up next? Is that back to you, Claudine?
Sure. I guess between myself and Valerie, like what we're, one of the aspirations now that we are aware the importance of the roles of schools and organizations that in looking after the well-being of its community, we've come to the realization that more and more we need to be intentional about the programs we have in place, and also to assess them and see how they're working, get the student voice. I mean, one of the most powerful things for me at the panel, when we had the panel, was listening to the student voice and listening to what worked for them to feel that they were heard and seen. And, you know, we had one of the students who came back. He'd left us last year and came back to talk about that sense of belonging that he had at the school. And he had been gifted a necklace, I'll never forget that, by one of his friends that he was still wearing as one of his attachment tools to remind him of that feeling of connection. And these are just some of the many important elements of why it's so important for schools to keep this at the top of the radar and to make sure that we are intentional about assessing and developing the programs that we have in place. And that's where SPAN for us at ISL has played a key role in guiding us and in working with us in various training and various tools and resources that we use. And Valérie, perhaps you'd like to share how over the last couple of years, a lot has been developed in order to support not just individual schools, but schools working across networks with one another. So when our student was leaving our school, we could pass the baton on to the next school to make their transition in that cross-cultural element as smooth as possible to the next school. And if we can all work as a network of schools together, that would really help in helping our students access learning. Because, you know, why it's important, we haven't actually highlighted it. Why it's important is that if they're well met, they will not access learning. And after all, we're here at schools to educate our children. So Valérie, please do share some of the many resources that SPAN has now put in place.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Claudine, for reminding us all that we are doing all of this work because ultimately we want to serve the children in our schools, right? So yes, so over the last couple of years, what we really have focused on at Safe Passage Across Networks is to connect, equip, and refresh transition care providers. So that can be transition care providers within schools, but also within organizations. So there are different pathways of doing that through SPAN. One of them, which is an easy one, is the Nest. It's every first Thursday of the month at 12 UTC, and anybody is welcome to join that. It's free, and we always pick one topic to address and have a conversation around that. And it's really an opportunity to simply have a time, an hour to speak to other people who are all very much who invested in transitions care, whether you're coming at it from the angle of a teacher or a counselor or a head of school or a parent, or even if you're working within an organization with families that move a lot. And then we also offer a Laws of Transitions certificate course, which is 2 months. We've now had over 35 schools and organizations participate in that course, and over 100 people have now received their certificate. And that has been a really amazing opportunity, not just for groups within schools to really work towards improving or enhancing their positive transitions care program, but also to interact with other groups from other international schools and people from other organizations to really share that knowledge. And what we hope to achieve is that schools don't work in silos, that they really work together in that process as well, where they're not feeling the need to reinvent the wheel every time, but really learn from each other as well to best serve their own communities, and then look at the resources available that they can then, individualize to their own needs as well. And then we have an annual symposium. We've now had 3 in the last 2 years. One year we had 2 in 1 year, but we've now had 3, and that's usually now in the fall. Or in around October, November time. And we offer various workshops as well. We also thank you for putting the book behind you there, Fiona. We now offer a book study as well on the book Safe Passage, and that's available through membership at Safe Passage Across Networks. And then we're also really happy and proud to have developed some amazing supporting partnerships. One of them, of course, being Relocate, but also with CIS, the Council of International Schools, the International School Counseling Association, ISCA, ISA, the Association of International Schools in Africa, and then Zinia International. So that's also really strengthening, once again, that network that Claudine was speaking to earlier, of really ensuring that people are connecting with each other, so that between schools especially as well, we can really improve those pathways for students to move between the schools.
Brilliant. And just to confirm, those your training that is online, so people are working all around the world together in a cohort going forward.
Exactly. It's a 2-month training that is mostly asynchronous. We also offer a few opportunities for people to connect live, because again, that's of course what we prioritize as well. And everything we do is to connect with each other. But even if the participants can't join it, they can always watch the recordings as well. And in everything we do, I want to highlight as well, because I do think that's so important, to really try to bring in that student voice, so that we are all reminded as well on why we're doing it, and listening to their experiences, what they need, what they hope for, and how we can best serve them.
That sounds great. And do you have anything on the horizon that might be help and support the employers themselves, because recruitment and retention is so important to employers currently, and you seem to know such a lot. Or you could perhaps just share some tips that you feel would really work when
having worked with a few organizations that employ families that have, that are highly mobile. I think what from my experience, what those families are really looking at are some guidelines on the right questions to ask as well, and some questions, where they can go to the schools where they because this language of positive transitions care and arrivers and leavers and stays, it all makes sense to us because we're very used to speaking that language. But especially if you're a first-time family moving overseas, you don't know what you need, right? So it's, I think, really important for employers also to offer that kind of information to their employees, and especially to the ones with children. Like, this is what you want to look for in a school. This is what you want to, because they might not necessarily be able to assist their employees and their families in everything that is their transition educationally, but they can point them in the right direction of what they need to ask from schools.
So for truly mobile families, this is another wonderful pathway of discovering where and how you can select the next school on your journey. So we're hoping that the span symbol will be there.
Exactly. And there are so many, first of all, there's so many amazing educators out there who are doing fabulous things within their schools, but there are also some fantastic schools like the International School of London who are really modeling that positive transitions care. And what I really find so special about them is that, in that, like Zack was mentioning as well, in that panel, it really showcased how much better all of that works when all the stakeholders within a school community communicate with each other on what they are doing, and then together build towards enhancing that program.
Great. So you've got hope for the future then, Valérie?
Oh, absolutely. Always.
So perhaps, Zack, you could just give your final thoughts on, your wish and hope for the next year ahead, what you might do in the school and what you would hope for in progress for more flourishing young people around the world.
Well, we already offer so much, and I think we are celebrating that. We do have elements in our curriculum that we will be fine-tuning to suit our current cohort. We do need to constantly review our offer and how that looks. But my hope really for the future would be for other schools to embrace a similar way of operating. I'd like other schools to reflect on their student community and what their linguistic needs are, and how to best match their needs to the current provision that is there, and what changes should be made. Because we can't be doing this on our own. It is a global issue that should be embraced across all schools, regardless of the country or the community or the type of school.
Yes, great, thank you. And SPAN seems to be a very welcoming community for people to get involved. So Claudine, you've had a huge amount of experience, and you've got a hand in both sides with SPAN and the schools. I mean, what are you seeing? Are you feeling positive about the future and the way transition care is moving?
Absolutely. I really strongly feel that the Laws of Transitions course has made a significant difference, because now we have, as Valérie mentioned, so many schools getting trained to fully understand, the needs of their community and wanting to network together and work together. And I think really that's the key. With wearing my SPAN hat on, the network piece is key for this to grow and expand and expand. And we're seeing the domino effect that more and more schools, and therefore families, because if the school highlights it, then the families understand it. And now when they're going from country to country, they're being ambassadors themselves, asking the right questions and asking if there is such a program or not. And if there isn't, suggesting that there is one and linking schools together. So I'm really excited about that process. And for ISL itself, one of the aspirations for me is to make sure that the sustainability is always there. We've been doing this for 10 years, but for it to continue to be sustainable, we need to train the transitions team to be the transitions team of a transitions team. So basically constantly revisiting and upskilling within our own institutions as well. But thank you, Fiona, for this opportunity that you offer schools and organizations to bring to highlight the importance of looking after our communities. And we really, really appreciate what Global Relocate stands for and the importance that you put on this, allowing us to voice our thoughts.
No, well, we're delighted to do that, and so encourage everyone to keep up to date with what's going on across the media of Relocate Global and Think Global People. But perhaps you'll just remind us, Valérie, there's new research coming out, Doug Oter's research. Just remind us when that will be and how will people be able to get hold of it. And
yes, well, there's new research coming out by Doug Oda that will be in the public domain as of January 24th. There will surely be a link on our website if, to access that as well, of course, and how to go about that.
Brilliant. Well, exciting times, and we wish you well with all these developments and look forward to inviting members of SPAN and also schools who are following in your footsteps to talk about positive transition care. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us, Fiona.
Thank you.
So we've been talking today for members of SPAN and in the International School of London. You can catch up with details about Valérie via this link on the website. And also we were joined by Claudine, who's with International School of London, as well as Zack, Ekert of a specialism in multilingualism. And I'm Fiona Murchie. I'm the managing editor of Think Global People, Relocate Global and Relocate Magazine. So here are the contact details for SPAN. You can find out about all those exciting offerings, the membership, the Laws of Transition certificate course, and of course details via the email address. Relocate Global and Think Global People are a multimedia with a wealth of resources for you to share. This includes our autumn and spring international schools fair, which are online, our guide to international education schools and country guides, a wealth of articles, videos and webinars, and also new to us are a series of podcasts, as well as fact sheets and mini fact sheets to get you up to speed with international leadership and global mobility issues. So please do check out our website and join us for the next webinar in the series. Thank you for joining us.